Right now, an AI agent is probably scanning some massive corporate network and finding a 40-year-old vulnerability in some legacy software.
Yeah, totally hidden.
Exactly. And without anyone pressing a button, it just alerts a second AI agent to draft a custom patch and then hands that off to a third agent.
Right.
And that third agent automatically deploys the fix across a global multi-cloud infrastructure.
Before the human IT manager has even poured their morning coffee.
Seriously. So, welcome to the era of agent-to-agent IT.
It's a profound shift, in how we build and manage technology. I mean, we are moving away from generative AI, where you just prompt a system and wait.
Right. The chatbot model.
Exactly. Moving from that to agentic AI, where these systems actually operate autonomously, carrying out these really complex multi-step workflows.
And to help you stay ahead of that massive shift, we're going on a special deep dive tailored directly for you.
Yeah, we have a lot to get through.
We really do. Today's mission is to unpack a huge stack of source material from the latest weekly newsletter from the desk of Andrew Kagan.
Which is always packed with information.
Always. Our goal is to cut through the noise and grab the absolute most important insights. We're covering 8 focus areas today: industry trends, data and AI, DevOps, Azure infrastructure, Power Platform, Microsoft 365, security, and learning and certifications.
It's a lot, but the through line connecting all of Kagan's updates this week is really that autonomous action.
Yeah.
Whether we're talking about a developer's environment or, say, a legal team's word processor, the underlying systems are becoming proactive.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with how businesses are entirely rewiring themselves at the top level to handle these proactive systems.
Right, looking at the big picture.
Exactly.
Yep.
So looking at the Microsoft 2026 Work Trend Index annual report, there's this heavy emphasis on what they call frontier firms.
Yeah, that term stood out to me.
Right. These are organizations that aren't just, bolting AI tools onto their existing processes. They're fundamentally rebuilding their operating models for the age of AI.
And to fuel that kind of systemic change, you need an incredible amount of high-quality data.
Obviously.
But more importantly, you can't rely on historical batch process data anymore. I mean, if an AI agent is making a decision on the fly, it needs real-time intelligence.
Which perfectly explains this fascinating example in the sources about Syracuse University.
Oh, yeah, the demographic shift.
Yeah, so they're using Microsoft Fabric to deal with this huge issue. The data shows that over the next 5 years, higher education is facing this plateau of 18-year-olds.
Right, a literal dip in the population of college-age students.
Exactly. So the university is using real-time data to create highly inclusive environments to attract those students. But let me push back on this for a second.
Sure.
I mean, I get that data is powerful, but wait, how does real-time analytics solve the biological fact that there are simply fewer 18-year-olds in the world?
Well, it certainly doesn't create more people out of thin air, right?
Right.
Instead, it radically changes how the university allocates its resources to the students who actually are available.
Okay, how so?
So in the past, a university might analyze last year's enrollment data to plan next year's marketing, basically casting a wide static net.
Like using last week's weather report to plan today's outfit.
Exactly. But by using a platform like Microsoft Fabric, they can ingest real-time signals from prospective students. So they're shifting outreach strategies, financial aid offers, and campus visit personalizations, like hour by hour.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they stop wasting resources on a general pool and hyper-focus on active prospects.
So rather than printing a static map of where the students used to be, it's like they're using a live GPS to route their resources to exactly where the students are interacting right now.
That is a much better way to think about it. And to make that live GPS work, the underlying data layers have to be instantly accessible.
Right.
That's why the OneLake catalog is now generally available in the Microsoft Foundry. It breaks down those data silos so models can just grab what they need instantly.
Makes sense.
And we're also seeing the SQL Model Context Protocol, or MCP server, become available as an Azure app service.
Yeah, I noticed MCP mentioned several times in Kagan's newsletter. Why is that specific protocol such a big deal?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, AI models historically struggled to interact with structured databases securely,
Right, they were a bit unpredictable.
Exactly. So the Model Context Protocol standardizes how an AI agent talks to your enterprise data. It's a universal, secure bridge.
Oh.
And once that bridge is built, you can unleash much more sophisticated models on your data.
Speaking of sophisticated models, the Foundry just added some heavy hitters. They've got IBM Granite 4.1, Qwen 3.635B, and the NVIDIA Nematron Nano Omni.
The Nemotron model is really interesting.
Yeah, that one caught my eye because of how it's used for broadcast compliance. The sources say it takes video input and flags restricted products or unverified claims.
Right.
But how exactly does an AI model watch a broadcast and flag it for compliance?
So Nemotron Nano Omni is a brilliant example of multimodal enterprise reasoning. It isn't just converting speech to text. It processes the visual frames and the audio simultaneously. So when it detects a violation, say, a restricted logo pops up in the background, or an anchor makes a questionable claim, it generates a highly structured JSON report.
Wow, so it reads the report for you.
Yeah, and that report includes word-level and frame-level timestamps. Human editors don't have to sit there and watch a 2-hour broadcast anymore. They just jump to the exact microsecond the model flagged.
That is incredibly efficient.
It really is.
But, of course, as our data capabilities grow, so do the threats. The sources casually mention this looming industry threat of quantum computing eventually breaking current cryptography.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Right. It's accelerating the need for post-quantum cryptography, which just adds a little existential dread to the data news.
It is a massive horizon problem, for sure. But honestly, organizations have more immediate operational fires to put out right now.
Very true.
Because if business models and data are moving at this light speed pace, the developers actually building and maintaining the software are facing a massive bottleneck.
Yeah, let's talk about developers and DevOps.
Yeah.
Because the numbers in the newsletter are staggering. IBM's Bob AI has now hit 80,000 developers,
Huge deployment.
and it resulted in a 45% productivity gain, which sounds like an absolute win on paper.
On paper, yes.
But the sources highlight a terrifying flip side. This agent code explosion. Currently, 45% of AI-generated code is reaching production environments without sufficient human review.
And we are seeing the structural consequences of that right now. That sheer volume of unreviewed code is breaking continuous integration and continuous deployment, the CI/CD pipelines.
Because they weren't built for that speed.
Exactly. They were designed for human typing speeds and human review cycles.
The sources specifically mention Team PCP attacks as a symptom of this. What does a Team PCP attack look like in practice?
It essentially turns your own productivity tools into a denial of service attack on your deployment infrastructure. Yeah. An AI coding agent doesn't get tired. It can generate hundreds of pull requests, commits, and automated tests an hour. If you haven't updated your pipeline governance, the AI just chokes the system.
It just floods it.
Right. It creates new stability issues, deploying unchecked logic simply because the system couldn't parse the sheer velocity of the incoming code.
This sounds like hiring a ghostwriter who can type 1,000 words a minute, but they hallucinate half the plot.
That's a great way to put it.
And then you just instantly publish the book anyway. Aren't we just automating the creation of technical debt here?
Well, the industry is actively shifting to prevent exactly that. The role of DevOps and site reliability engineers is fundamentally transforming right now.
How so?
They are moving away from manually writing and reviewing individual lines of code. Instead, their job is to govern code generation. You have to treat these AI agents as highly eager, high volume, but ultimately junior developers. They need strict, automated guardrails.
And we are starting to see the tooling catch up to provide those guardrails. The newsletter highlights a new VS Code extension for AKS Azure Kubernetes Service.
Yes, the containerization assist.
Exactly. It uses a specialized knowledge base to help developers seamlessly transition their code into containers. There's also mention of an Open Models Coding Essentials course teaching devs to run LLMs locally to build automated smoke tests.
You basically have to build AI tools to test the AI-generated code. You fight automation with automation. It's the only way to manage the scale.
But where does all this agentic code actually live? The underlying infrastructure has to be incredibly robust.
Absolutely.
That brings us to what Kagan highlights in the Azure infrastructure and Power Platform focus areas.
Take Azure Arc, for example. It is completely transforming multi-cloud management.
Yeah, the dynamic scoping is huge.
Right. Arc allows for dynamic scoping for patching, enforcing policy as code, and even migrating SQL Server databases directly from old on-premises servers straight into the cloud.
The new Logic Apps Migration Agent really stood out to me here. It's an open-source AI-assisted tool to migrate legacy BizTalk environments to Logic Apps standard.
That's very cool.
So AI isn't just writing our apps, it's acting as the world's smartest moving company. It packs up your complex, fragile old BizTalk house, navigates the internet, and unpacks everything perfectly in the Logic Apps cloud.
It's a really powerful capability, and access to these environments is expanding too, with Windows 365 and Azure Virtual Desktop Hybrid moving into public preview.
Right. And Copilot Studio has new analytics. Power BI has new semantic model settings.
Yeah, and Fabric has that Execute DAX Queries API in preview.
But the truly groundbreaking update is the Work IQ API public preview. The sources state this enables A2A capabilities. Why is A2A considered such a massive leap forward?
Well, what's fascinating here is the complete removal of the human trigger. A2A stands for agent-to-agent communication. Historically, even the smartest AI just sat idle until a user provided a prompt. With the Work IQ API, a monitoring agent can independently notice a database performance issue, query a diagnostic agent to find the root cause, and then hand instructions off to a remediation agent.
And that remediation agent uses Azure Arc to adjust the server configs.
Exactly.
So all of that happens without a human ever pressing a button or even knowing there was an issue until they read the logs the next day.
The infrastructure becomes autonomous. We're witnessing the transition from human-managed IT to AI-orchestrated IT.
Which brings this massive autonomous back-end infrastructure directly down to the tools you use every single day at your desk. Let's look at Microsoft 365.
Right, the everyday user experience.
Yeah, managing a fleet of these agents requires serious oversight, which is why Microsoft 365 E7 and Agent 365 are now generally available, giving organizations enterprise-grade controls.
Crucial for security.
And we are seeing Copilot Cowork evolve, moving from just conversation to taking action across skills and devices.
The standout feature here, though, is the new legal agent in Word, which is part of the Frontier program.
Yes, I wanted to talk about this.
This is not your generic LLM blindly summarizing text. It is designed to review complex contracts clause by clause against a company's specific internal playbook.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The architecture behind the legal agent. It doesn't just use an LLM. It has a deterministic resolution layer and a purpose-built insertion algorithm.
That's the key.
It preserves document formatting, track changes, nested tables. It's like a spell checker that went to law school.
Yeah.
But let me challenge this for a second. If it is relying on a deterministic resolution layer, meaning it follows strict, hard-coded rules for making changes, is that actually generative AI? Or are we just dressing up an advanced rules engine?
That's a great question. It's really the hybrid nature of modern enterprise AI.
Okay.
Because a traditional rules engine fails here. It doesn't understand semantics. If a counterparty rewrites a liability clause using entirely different vocabulary, a rules engine breaks.
Right, it's looking for specific keywords.
Exactly. The LLM handles the semantic reasoning. It reads the document and understands that paragraph 4, despite its weird phrasing, is indeed a liability clause that violates the company playbook.
Ah, I see.
But once the LLM makes that judgment, you do not want it hallucinating the revision.
Definitely not an illegal contract.
Right. You want the change executed perfectly, adhering to legal formatting standards. That is where the deterministic guardrails take over. They ensure the workflow remains auditable, consistent, and legally sound.
That level of precision really explains why the constraints for deploying it are so strict. The community comments in the newsletter make it very clear you need a full Copilot license, you have to have Anthropic enabled as a subprocessor, and you must be running the current channel edition of Desktop Word.
Right. No monthly channel or Word Online.
Those are very specific constraints.
They highlight the sheer computational complexity required to make an agent trustworthy. Because if you have an AI rewriting your legal contracts, migrating your databases, and generating production code, your attack surface has fundamentally transformed.
Which means we need to talk about security, compliance, and privacy. How do you secure a network when the attackers are also autonomous agents?
It's a whole new battlefield.
The sources detail the rise of AI CVE factories. Threat actors are using AI models to rapidly scan code bases and discover vulnerabilities. They are finding bugs that have been sitting unnoticed in software for 40 years.
And because the discovery is automated, the time between a vulnerability being found and it being actively exploited has shrunk to near zero.
That's terrifying.
It is. This was a major topic at the recent Agentic AI Security Summit. They discussed the AI agent governance gap. I mean, when an agent takes action on behalf of an employee, traditional identity models struggle.
Right. How do you know it's the agent and not the user?
Exactly. How do you verify the identity and how do you restrict its blast radius if it goes rogue?
Of course, the sources also remind us That while we worry about autonomous AI agents, the old tricks still work. The DigiCert breach happened because of a malicious screensaver file,
Yep, sometimes all it takes is a bad click.
which is why device security remains paramount. Microsoft Intune is trying to force administrators to adapt to this new speed. They introduced a new three-tile dashboard, just red, yellow, and green.
Keep it simple.
Right. It's designed to force admins away from legacy, 7-day patch cycles, and push them toward auto-patch and always-on readiness.
Yes.
So what does this all mean for the traditional IT rhythm? Is the concept of Patch Tuesday completely dead? Because moving from a weekly update to constant auto-patching feels less like checking a weather forecast and more like living with a blaring 247 tornado siren.
It really does, and this raises an important question for every IT leader. The reality is that accepting the risk by delaying a patch until the weekend is no longer a viable strategy.
Not when the attacks are automated.
Exactly. When attacks are powered by AI CVE factories, your defenses must be equally automated. You have to rely on AI defenses to fight AI offenses.
Right.
You enforce standard user accounts, you utilize the new Windows 11 administrator account protection, and you let auto-patch handle the overwhelming volume of updates.
And thankfully, the defensive tools are getting much more intuitive. We're seeing security copilot agents and a major push in DSPM data security posture management.
AI observability is huge here.
The sources note you can now use natural language to audit your environment. You literally just type, "Find me all files containing product details for Project Nebula."
No more complex regex filters.
Exactly. The AI just searches your entire network.
It dramatically lowers the barrier to entry for securing an environment. You don't need to be a query language expert anymore to find exposed data.
Which is great.
The AI handles the complex parsing, allowing the human security professional to focus entirely on strategy and remediation.
And that focus on strategy leads perfectly into the final theme from Kagan's newsletter, learning and certifications.
A very popular topic.
With the sheer velocity of these changes, from Azure Arc's autonomous migrations to the legal agent's hybrid architecture and Intune's always-on security, how on earth do you keep your skills relevant?
Well, Microsoft is rolling out several new certifications on the Skills Hub to address exactly this transition. We're seeing the Microsoft Certified Cybersecurity Business Professional Certification and the Dynamics 365 Sales AI Consultant Associate.
I also noticed the DP800, the new SQL AI Developer Certification, mentioned in the Fabric community forums.
Yes.
So let me ask you, how do you choose your path right now? With tech changing weekly, should you focus on deep technical certs like the SQL AI developer, or pivot to the business professional certs to manage the AI?
I think it's the defining career choice of this decade.
Really?
Yeah. Generally speaking, the value of human knowledge is shifting. The premium is moving away from simply knowing the syntax. Because as we discussed, the AI can write the syntax for you, usually faster than you can type it.
Right, the ghostwriter.
Exactly. The real value is shifting toward understanding the business application, the security architecture, and the governance of these tools.
Knowing the why instead of the how.
Exactly. Knowing how to structure a solution and ensure it operates securely within a compliance framework is becoming far more valuable than memorizing individual code structures.
It's about knowing exactly what needs to be built and why it matters to the business, rather than knowing exactly how to type out the specific functions.
Yes. And that structural understanding is what will keep professionals relevant as the tools themselves become increasingly autonomous.
We have covered a massive amount of ground today on our journey through Andrew Kagan's newsletter. We started by looking at how frontier firms are rebuilding their operating models using real-time data in Microsoft Fabric, rather than relying on historical batches.
We examined the harsh reality of the developer revolution, where AI-generated code is scaling so fast it's breaking CI/CD pipelines, forcing DevOps to govern agents instead of writing code.
We explored how underlying infrastructures like Azure Arc are adapting to handle this load, and how agent-to-agent or A2A communication is completely removing the human prompt from enterprise IT.
And we saw how that autonomy reaches the end user with tools like the legal agent in Microsoft 365, blending semantic LLM reasoning with strict deterministic rules.
We also confronted the aggressive new threat landscape of AI CVE factories, offset by always-on AI-powered defenses in Intune and natural language data posture management.
All of which points to a future where human expertise is validated not by syntax, but by business logic and security governance.
It's an incredible amount to process. But I want to leave you with a final mind-bending concept to ponder based on everything we uncoact today.
Oh, this is a good one.
We started this deep dive talking about AI as a reactive tool, a search engine you occasionally queried. But if we're truly entering an era of agent-to-agent communication,
Right.
an environment where an AI agent proactively monitors your network, contacts a second agent to write a patch for a 40-year-old vulnerability, and uses a third agent to automatically deploy that patch.
How long until your primary daily function isn't interacting with software at all?
Exactly. How long until your main role shifts from being a technologist to acting essentially as a human HR manager for a board of digital, entirely autonomous employees?
It's a wild thought.
The technology is no longer just assisting the business. It is beginning to run the operations. The question is, are you ready to manage the agents doing the running?
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. There's so much nuance and detail to explore in these updates, so we highly encourage you to dig into Andrew Kagan's newsletter and the source materials on your own. Until next time.